Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Okay, my name is Sandeep Rangu. On behalf of UBS Forums and Akrivia, I welcome you all for this exclusive summit on senior HR decision makers on HR Tech Summit and Awards. First, we would like to thank from bottom of our heart for making it this evening after, quite scheduled and busy day, and today making it this evening. Really appreciate and thank you all for your time. Now, just giving a brief idea for today's summit. As you all know, in this disruptive scenario, leveraging technology into HR function has become a key tool for driving efficiencies by supporting and shaping organization competitive strategies. Technologies like HCM, recruitment tech, payroll management has been an important instrument in transforming business globally, bringing more agility into HR function. As organizations compete in this challenging business environment, can we stop that video, please? Okay, sorry. As organizations compete in this challenging business environment, it has now become even more important for HR leaders to transform their end-to-end HR process from recruitment to payroll management, increase employee satisfaction, eliminate redundancy, and maximize employee productivity. Today at this event, we will understand how you can accelerate your continuous transformation journey by building an effective and agile HR portfolio which will minimize time, eliminate cost, and ultimately help boost business productivity. At the end, towards the end, we will also have HR Leadership Tech Awards, where we will recognize our HR leaders for their achievements into this space. And to set the tone, I will first like to invite Adil Nargolwala sir for the opening statement and for setting the context. He is the Corporate SVP in HR with WNS Global Services. Can we welcome Adil sir with a big round of applause, please?
So let me start by saying we are trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. And in today's times, so I work for WNS. Okay, WNS, for people who don't know, is a large BPO organization. We are a company worldwide with offices across the globe. And we have a workforce of over 55,000 people. And we're growing at an average of about 15 to 20% a year, so we keep adding people to that. And when you have a company as large as 55,000 people, a lot of times the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, okay? And it's very true when it comes to HR, okay? Because we all know that HR is multifaceted. It's not like what we grew up, when I grew up, it was all about industrial relationships, it was industrial relations. Now it's no longer that. Now it's much beyond that. It's way smarter than a lot of stuff, some of us from my generation, when we studied what HR was. And in an organization with a large workforce or a large base, it's very important to handle people, because nowadays with so much of opportunity available, with so many jobs available in so many companies, so many different fields, okay, how do you make people stick with you? And for that, a good tool which gives insights to management on what are people's needs, what are people's wants, what do people expect from organizations or from management, is something that a system or a good tool will always be beneficial. You have an employee who joins you, so from the time you engage with him in the talent acquisition space, you spend time in recruiting a guy. From the onboarding onwards to the life cycle of the employee in the company, he's learning, okay, to ensure that his needs are met in the organization in every possible way. And finally, in case he's exiting, his exit, all this happens to fall under a particular management program or a tool that is something that we will later on be seeing when the launch happens after this. The purpose of a tool like this is to ensure that HR leaders, other operating leaders, have an insight as to what's the current flow of people, what is their needs, their requirements that are there that can be met. It's become a key tool to drive efficiencies, okay? And it's a tool that allows individuals also to interact with the company. So a lot of times, we've had, I'll give you an example in our own organization. A lot of time is spent in creating trackers. okay? And a lot of times, one tracker does not meet the other tracker. So there are differences, and you have people spending hours trying to get that Excel sheet right. And how many of you face such a problem? I mean, if you have a show of hands, that's quite a lot of people. That shows that there is no centralized database, or there is no centralized space from where a single source of truth can be picked up, and that is one data which can confidently go and tell your boss, okay, this is what it is. Okay, a lot of times, in organizations, people get defensive when it comes to data. Okay, it's like my data is versus your data. Okay, HR will have issues with finance. How many times we've seen that in our organizations where we are defending, numbers which don't tally with other teams in the same organization. Don't you see that? So hopefully a tool that comes up with one single source of truth or one single point of data is something that we all want to, reach out to. For example, in our company, 35% to 40% of hiring happens through referrals. Now that's a large number. When you're hiring 20,000 people every year, if 7,000 people come out of a referral program, to manage that referral program requires volumes and volumes of effort. And if you have a good tool which manages that, provides the right data. I mean, the biggest complaint that people have is, we've referred, we don't know what's happened. How many times have people faced that question? Do you guys face that question in your organizations? When people have referred and then it's been weeks and they come back and then you tell them, please refer more, and they say, what's the use of referring? We've referred somebody and we haven't yet got to know what's the outcome of that referral. If you had a good tool, okay, which could capture that referral, which could give information in real time to the referee as to what's happening with that referral, is something that would really aid and help the referral program in each of your organizations. Another thing that the tool can really help is with mundane questions that people have. We all know about chatbots, okay? That's something that's very essential in today's world. I mean, all of us have apps on our phones, okay? For example, if you have a credit card and you have a query, a lot of times you go on an app on your phone and you put that query in and a chatbot answers back. I think it's still very nascent. Half the times the answers are very repetitive and I would say extremely, you don't get a solution with that answer, and you still want to somebody to pick up the phone and to speak with and all. But I think as time goes ahead, artificial intelligence kicks in, chatbots, etc. will get, more smarter, more intelligent, and will be able to help, manage a lot of issues which are regular issues that employees have in companies, regarding, for example, somebody may have an issue with salary, okay? Somebody may have expected an incentive which he hasn't received in his salary slip, in his payroll. Now, if that could be addressed through data, through a chatbot, through a tool, it will help answer that question faster, okay? The employee will get a correct response, and there will be no human intervention required. So a good tool can help solve that, okay? Then, you all have heard the word digital, okay? Digital is being bandied around everywhere nowadays, wherever you go, okay? Everybody talks tech, everybody talks artificial intelligence, everybody talks digital. I personally believe a lot of things that we do, we won't be able to always take away the human interface. So, going digital is good. Companies need to, expand their digital footprint. I will speak more for an HR perspective, not a customer, perspective. And in that, it's very important for us to understand that in that whole thing about going digital and trying to get tech in place, we don't lose out on the human element. So therefore, it's very important that tool that, any one of us, I haven't really seen this tool. I really can't talk about Akrivia, okay? But I have seen tools which, for a tech guy, look great. But for an average guy to use that tool, no? I mean, how many of you have used the older version of PeopleSoft? It's the most tough, difficult, and ugly tool I have seen. But large companies run PeopleSoft as if it's a Bible for them, And employees pull their hair out. I mean, trying to get leave. If you go on PeopleSoft and try to apply for leave, it can take you like half an hour to navigate through that tool just to apply for say tomorrow you don't want to go to work and you want to apply for leave for tomorrow, it'll take you half an hour to navigate and get to that particular part of that tool where you can go and apply for leave. So why should it take that long? I mean, a tool should be simple. It's like, why do people gravitate to all the social media apps that we have? Because they're so simple to use. I can take a photo right now. In 10 seconds, I can take a photo, upload it, and people can start liking and commenting on it. Okay, that's what a tool needs to be like for employees. It should be intuitive, it should be fast, it should be interactive, and people should love using it. You would have also heard of in companies where the internal communication team or the marketing team will come up with a tool to try to engage with people. 8 out of 9 out of 10 times that tool fails because it doesn't have that engagement quotient which, for example, a Facebook has. Okay, the tool is very, very, I would say, clunky is the right word to use. Okay, and in that clunkiness, today's generation, which is a young generation, like in our organization, average age of employees is about 25, 27 years age. Those guys don't want to go through something which they have to go press one key here, then something will open, then something. They want something that opens like this. It's instant zamana. In that instant zamana, they're not willing to take time out to do, to use tools or to go in a clunky manner. So therefore, it's important that whatever tool that you guys choose for your organization or the tool that, Akrivia has an element of appealing to today's generation. People should be able to reach into it. And finally, I would say any tool or any data base has to be scalable because organizations are growing and some of the organizations are growing very fast. You take few of the startups, over the last couple of years, you suddenly see somebody who started 2-3 few years ago is now a unicorn. Okay, and when you become that huge, that fast, if you don't have the right tools or the right, you can say, platforms, it gets very difficult for those companies or those teams to manage, their workforce. And at the end of the day, a good HR system or a good HR management tool has to be finally for the people that are working. Because in my mind, people are the company's biggest asset. I mean, nowadays you can go rent an office in a fancy building. Okay, you can from inside make great interiors. You can provide transport, you can give free food, etc. But if you don't get the pulse of the people that you're working with, and if you can't manage the people through a tool which is interactive, which is intuitive, which they love working with, you're going to lose connection with them. And therefore, it's important, I would say, to have a good tool. And I will finally end with what we all have seen in the last couple of years due to the pandemic is this work from home phenomena. And a lot of companies still who are in the IT space, IT enabling services space, it could be BPO, it could be tech, digital, RNA, research analytics, etc., which we call the knowledge workforce. Okay, a lot of these companies are still working from home. And as HR managers, how do you interact with people you don't meet? Okay, pehle to kya tha, people came to office. There were chances of meeting, If you remember some years ago, we had things like Friday Fun. Okay, every few weeks or every few months, you organize some kind of a event in the office where all the staff got together and met with management. Okay, there were town halls. Last couple of years, we've seen only virtual stuff happening. The real stuff is still, to happen. There is still a lot of, like in our organization, 70% of us still are working from home. And a lot of people have joined the company in the last 2 years, have never been to office. The only time they've met with their bosses on a Zoom call, okay, or their team on a Zoom call. They're still to have interaction with each other. So therefore, for companies that plan to go ahead with the gig workforce, for companies that plan to continue work from home or through a hybrid model, if not a pakka work from home model, for these companies, a good tool to have interaction with their employees, to interface with their employees is also something that is very important. And for management to understand, I mean, a lot of times we've seen productivity issues for people working from home. The kind of, you can say, the numbers that were getting processed, the number of, if you're handling a process, there's an outcome that every process has to deliver for a customer, okay? And the outcomes are measurable. And the outcomes that were there, which were measured earlier in the pre-COVID days, we still haven't matched to a large extent outcomes in the post-COVID world because working from home. Okay, some of the things are circumstance based, like sometimes internet is an issue, or your work environment at home could become an issue. Okay, which issues are not there when you're in the workplace. Okay, but with a good tool, with a good way of interacting with your workforce, you could minimize those disruptions. You could enable better productivity. Okay, you could ensure, you could measure it right. Because productivity, not only enabling better productivity, you also got to measure it right. Because at the end of the day, employee satisfaction in the form of incentive is based on productivity. You pay basis what you get from an employee, right? So you pay a base salary and you pay incentives to every employee that delivers or over delivers on what has been given to him as a task. That is something that still, I would say, is not fully, there in companies. The people are still struggling to, and I can say, not only in my organization, but when I have spoken with colleagues in other organizations, we're all facing that same problem of trying to manage people at home, productivity issues at home, infosec issues at home. Infosec is another big worry for the industry that still works from home. So a good tool that manages data with people should be able to address such issues. Okay, and I think that's it. Finally, another thing that's happened virtually through the last couple of years also is training. Okay, we've all been hiring people and training them virtually. Okay, so a good learning management system. Okay, a good tool that manages productivity, learning for people. Okay, it's in the earlier days you had for example a batch of 50 employees that would enter into a classroom in the office space, a training room, and that's how you would address them. Today you got to do this through virtual means. Okay, so a good tool that manages how to train and get the right output for those people. That's something that is there. And finally, analytics. A manager needs to see what's happening in his team. Senior managers need to see what's happening across teams, and the CXOs of the company need to see across the company what's happening. And one consolidated data management tool, one consolidated HR management tool will become the single source of truth, or the single point of data, which will basically further, you can say, have an intercourse with the financial side of the company, because at the end of the day, everything is numbers. Okay, on one side you have HR numbers, one side say you have financial and sales numbers, and all these 3 tools or 4 tools in an organization need to interact and talk to each other to get the final output for an organization. So therefore I would say that the analytics side of it, predicting where the company is headed from an HR side, what steps that should be taken to you can say bring it back on course in case it's meandering. Okay, things like this is another thing that's important in a good data management tool. So I think I'll end with that. Like I said, I tried my best. Okay, it's if told earlier, I would have prepared better and maybe been able to give you a more insightful understanding of what I think is correct. So thanks a lot, guys. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Adil sir, for setting the context